Hello, everybody. I am super excited today to present and welcome to you, whether you are watching this on the replay or you have joined live. I'm excited to talk to you today about the autumn secrets, seasonal secrets. And I run these every quarter, and I've found that many entrepreneurs and small business owners aren't quite sure where to put all their energy. And or whether it's their energy, their time, or their money. And knowing what's coming up is always a great kind of filter system as to being able to help where we might want to spend that energy, time, and money, and save us time in the long run. So today, I am super excited to talk to all of you, coaches, clinicians, creatives, all about where is the next season going to take us and what's happening globally for us, whether it is entrepreneurially or in these other areas of our lives. And I've created a really cool tool. And if you haven't downloaded it yet, you can go to tammyguest.com/playbook. And it tells you all about this entrepreneurial cycle that we are exploring. And this cycle, this season, we are diving into in the Southern Hemisphere is the autumn one. Alrighty, let's have a look what we've got going on. Alrighty. So this is autumn in the Southern Hemisphere. It is spring in the Northern Hemisphere that you guys are coming into up there. But these things that are happening, I'm talking about from a lunar perspective, a feeling for what's happening in the entrepreneurial sphere globally and what trends are coming up. And I've presented these before and people have jumped onto these trends and created whole new arms of their business. There was a moment where we were talking, it was at the verge, at the beginnings of long COVID, and somebody who watched the webinar started an entire arm of their business based on that. And the same thing can happen for you. So whatever these trends are, I want you to start to notice where they might be applicable to you and your business. And where even in the smallest kind of space and place, whether it's on your social media or somewhere else in your newsletters or even in conversation with clients, where you could actually get this as part of what you're offering. So today, the things that we're talking about are going to start in a second. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the original custodians on the land on which I am coming to you from today, the Awabakal people of the Five Islands clan. I've moved, and this space and this place is bringing more flow, and it's one of my biggest learnings and lessons from the past couple of years is where can we find more flow in our lives and our businesses. And the original custodians, their elders past, present, and emerging, have this embedded in country and their stories and their song lines. And here in Australia, where I am, over 60,000 years ago, and for the past 60,000 years, the original custodians have been watching the lake that I am surrounded by at the moment, coming in and going out and where that takes us. So I wanted to acknowledge that first. I want you to take a moment to consider where you get to have the privilege of working and playing and bringing up your loved ones. And it's a really big part and integral part of the work that I do. Everything that you are going to hear today is in its essence in this book, Unrestricted, just in case you haven't seen it yet. It's available in all of the places and spaces, and hopefully we have an Audible one coming out shortly. But it has lots of different tips, tricks, tools to get you into business, to get you back into business, and to take your business to the next level without burnout. And it has a lot of personal stories in it. But today we're focusing on the three main things in there, and I've distilled some of it into the playbook. Again, if you haven't looked at it, it's tammyguest.com/playbook. And I find it as the antidote to the hustle and burnout culture of the past decade of online business, especially because it's not working anymore. So we have to mix it up a little and learn from timeless things like nature and timely things like how we actually reset our internal guidance system. The first one I wanted to take you on a journey with is, what is your internal compass saying? This is on about page 6 on your booklet, if you've downloaded it. And it's a spider graph. It's super simple. But what it's standing for is the most important thing. And there was a time in my life where I felt very out of balance. The way in which I was working wasn't working. The job that I was in didn't serve me. I was at a full night shift, 5 days a week night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And my body was starting to break down. And although I thought I had gotten into the job for the reason that was good and wholesome and wonderful, my body was starting to give me signs and symptoms that permanent night shift was not going to work for me. I have always created art or been artistic in some form in my life, and that had fallen by the wayside. Once a week, I would catch up with my friends, and that was starting to disappear as well. And I wasn't talking to my sister as much, who I was living with. My finances had hit a plateau, and I didn't have the time to change anything. I tried to start different courses, and I tried to get new qualifications, and it would fall on flat because I just didn't have the time that I wanted to spend and dedicate to doing something new and different. And I was also living in a house that wasn't conducive to night shift. I couldn't go to sleep in the mornings. I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do. So if I was hopping in here at that point in my life, and I looked at this graph, and I went from the 0 in the middle to 10 of coming alive and feeling so excited about the reason I exist, all of the things that I got to play with and get curious about, my connections, my friends, my family, my faith, my health and my well-being, my finances, my time, my contribution to the planet, and you get what I mean, right? When I was looking at this from the perspective of where I was at, I could tell you that the major things that were not working for me was my health. My curiosity was at 0, my connections. Now, if this was a compass, and you can see underneath it, we've inlaid a compass, and this comes from my work, my play, learning to fly helicopters, is when you've got a compass and it's doing what it's supposed to do, it's expansive. You can expand your view by holding a compass in front of you. You can expand it in all the different directions. If your compass is lopsided, or there's a magnet and something's just dragging it away, then it's lopsided. You're not going to see the same expansive view. So we're going to take a moment. And even if you're doing a mental check, but if you have printed out the booklet, I want you to do a check, because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And if you're doing one thing that isn't working for you, it's very likely in many of the other areas of your life, you're not truthful about it, but something in there isn't working for you either. And we want to shift that, even by 10%, even by 1%, because if you've been playing along with me for a while, I learned to fly helicopters pre-pandemic. And to learn to fly a helicopter takes a lot of energy, focus, money, time. But what you learn, especially when you're navigating, is that your compass is there. But if you are 1 degree off, or if the wind shoves you 1 degree off, within an hour to 2 hours, you are so far off course. You are in a way different trajectory to what you were something as simple as 2 hours prior. So what I want you to start to think about is, what is the 1 degree shift that you could make in the area that is least working for you, or in the area that you've kind of sparked an interest in, that you're noticing it's not working for you, but you are ready to change it. And then I want you to think about what makes you come alive in that area. Now, this is setting you up so that when we talk about the things that are coming up in the global trends of entrepreneurship and the things that are coming up in March, April, and June, in this next season, you're going to start to see where you could apply it and not send yourself off track. Alrighty. The second thing I want you to start to consider, and again, it's in my book Unrestricted, and we tease it out in the entrepreneurship cycle in the booklet, the play booklet at tammyguest.com/playbook, is we do have 4 seasons. And when we want to create that expansive view and we want to come alive in all of these different areas of your compass, we want to do it in flow. We don't want to just shove in one corner of the compass and then shove it in the other corner and hustle to get all the way to the north or all the way to the south, But that's what we've been taught to do. Well, I've been in business for about 15 years, and definitely within the first decade, the bro culture of entrepreneurship was just hustle, go, burnout, irrelevant. If you have kids or a family, or you have a chronic condition, or you have some other way of viewing the world, it was all this way or the highway. But this is the thing. The timeless gifts of nature give us the idea of following the natural cycles in the same way that we follow the cycle of entrepreneurship. And I wanted to share it with you so that you can understand that you have got a way of creating more flow rather than just pushing and shoving your way into the next version of you. So the first one, if we go from midnight to 3 o'clock, we're talking about the create cycle or the spring cycle. And in your booklet, I've given you some resources on if you are in this zone or you want to expand in this zone of ideas, creativity, curiosity, and even planning for the future, particularly in your business. I've given you some great books, some podcasts, and some other resources in there to have a look at. You'll also be able to see my last webinar is available on YouTube about spring and summer. Now, in the entrepreneurship cycle, we get an idea and then we tell the whole world about it. We get an idea in spring and we tell the whole world about it in summer. It's the notion that something buds and then we have an option to proliferate that. The summer one that that I did 3 months ago is also available on YouTube, on my YouTube channel at Tammy Guest. And we talked a lot about messaging, marketing, and community, how you can build that voice out into the world and get that message out. This whole season is about pricing platforms and processes and how we can get more flow in that area. How can we get more flow and be okay with money? How can we get more space and time to prune what we have? I'm thinking about my ginkgo tree outside, to be honest. Right now, all its leaves are turning yellow and all it wants to do is drop them. And then I have to prune it back and make sure it's okay, clean up all the things that aren't really working around the outside to create space for the quiet time and the new growth. Now, interestingly enough, today in my business, I was actually on the back end getting you your playbook all ready and raring to go. And I looked at all of my autoresponder sequences. Now, this is a process that happens in the background of my business, and it has done for the past 5 years. And I've got some autoresponder sequences in there that are like 3 years old that people are still popping in to get resources, to get playbooks, to get other bits and pieces from my website that are helpful, especially to the community of clinicians and creatives that I help. And they're 3 years old. I haven't pruned them. I haven't paid them attention. I haven't, cleaned them up. And that's what this season is all about. Lastly, we have the review and renew cycle, which is often the winter cycle. I'm in front of my new fireplace, which I will have roaring for you next time. And this is the time to celebrate, the time to course correct, and the time to let go and love life. And it's a great time to be able to really review and renew, have a look at what worked, what didn't work, and moving forward, what you could do about it, similar to our internal compass. All right, like I said, I'm going to tell you about what the themes are that are coming up around the world at the moment and how they relate to the next 3 months. So the entrepreneurial world themes, these come from all sorts of places and spaces, and I kind of distill them for you based on what I'm seeing in Forbes and and the Economics magazine. We've got the International Day of Women tomorrow, and we have, the 40 most expansive or adventurous women. We have articles on the 40 most financially stable women. We have, there's all sorts of things that are coming out in those types of places and spaces consistently. But there is also places and spaces that we get to play in that, again, the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. And there's these intersections that happen that I like to talk about. The first one is sales as a service. And it's one of the things that we've lost during the pandemic years, in that we have these interfaces that we all thought was going to go one way to the other. We were going to go from bricks and mortar straight over to online, and that was that. But the truth is, the sales that were happening in bricks and mortar and the experience and the service you get person to person, it can be replicated to a point in online, but something is lost. What they're trying to do in the online space is replicate the service and the experiential perspective to bring it back to somewhere in this pendulum swing of the middle. For you, sales as a service, especially if you're a service-based business, is often to do with how can you give someone an aha moment, a moment of, oh, I get it. A moment of, oh, that's how bad it's actually going to be. Oh, that's how good it could be. Oh, I really need to tell somebody about that. It's not relevant for me, but I need to tell somebody about that particular thing. Sales as a service is giving a service of whatever you have to give in the process of your sales. And whether that sale ends up being with you or somebody else, knowing where you can send somebody so that they can get the next best thing. And I had an experience of this recently where I went into a store, and a very large hardware store, and one particular hardware store locally, I went in and after 15 minutes of trying to find somebody to talk to, I asked somebody, look, I've got to replace this in my tap. And it needs to be this amount of millimeters and this, and I've got the picture and it says online you've got one. After another 15 minutes of trying to find it, he goes, oh, it says we've got 27, but if it's not in front of you, probably don't have it. And that was it. There was nothing. There was no alternative. There was no aha moment. There was no garnering of information. There was nothing. There was, oh, well, probably don't have it. Now, that isn't sales as a service. That's sales as a transaction, not a transformation. Whereas I went about 20 minutes drive further down the road, went to a similar hardware store, and I was a little bit timid, but I went up and I said, look, I had this really bad experience at the other store, but I was wondering if you had this. And sure enough, they sent me directly to the aisle that I needed, found the particular one that I needed, and then proceeded to tell me that if I was to actually put that in, I might need this other thing, this other glue, to plug up a hole that it would actually cause a problem in the long run. And if I didn't have this particular glue, so then they took me to another person in the same store that told me about the particular glue. Now, not only did I get what I needed, they made a sale, they also created the service of giving me an aha moment, and on top of that, made another sale. So I got two. And this is the thing, in your business, there is bound to be somewhere that you can create an aha moment, whether you are a coach or a clinician and it's in your discovery calls and you are creating an opportunity for people to understand how dire their health could get, how positive the impact of a piece of artwork in their house could be, or getting started on their own creative journey could be, or the health journey, whatever it happens to be, that aha moment will last long term, and that creates sales as a service, not sales for sales sake. The next thing in the entrepreneurial world themes that's coming through is wholeness. Now, wholeness in leadership is a really big thing. A couple of really big books have come out in the past year, as well as studies about not just the well-being or the health of an organization, but the wholeness, and similar to your internal compass, what are the areas that make you whole and complete? Not just focusing on one. How can you get a whole and complete person showing up for work, in their doing their best, being their best, in the best culture, in the best space? Now, same thing goes in the well-being space. This is the thing about well-being, means that we're heading towards perfection. You know, we've got to have the perfect body and the perfect this and the perfect scores on your pathology and the perfect this and perfection doesn't create space for wholeness, because wholeness creates beautiful, wonderful, bumpy imperfections, in the same way that your compass is about progress and not perfection. And in the entrepreneurial world, whether it's in leadership, organizations, well-being, or online programs, we are creating more wholeness rather than a perfection, tick of the box kind of scenario, which has been the dominant way of thinking over the past decade, and something's starting to shift there. The third one is AI and ChatGPT. Everyone's talking about it. And if you haven't heard about artificial intelligence, wow, yeah, let's catch you up just a little bit. So AI and ChatGPT are a conglomerate of software that essentially garners information based on the inputs and prompts you give it. Many people are freaked out by it because artificial intelligence means that somebody else is thinking it, and it could take over the world and all that kind of stuff. But if you've given it a go, and I really believe in experiential learning, if you've given it a go, especially my clients and my mentees have had a really great time. For those people who don't like a blank canvas, who procrastinate because something needs to get done, but somebody else needs to kick it off, AI allows that kickoff, but you do have to have some knowledge of good question asking, so skills in how to put a question together, and skills and prompts to bring in the answers that might be useful to you. But it is somewhere to look. Now, I'll get into it a little bit more in our March, April, May ideas that are coming up. And yeah, I'll get into it a bit more then. The last one is the luxury lag. Now, everybody at the moment has been talking globally about the global recession and the interest rate rises here in Australia. If you are here in Australia, we've had our 10th one in a row as of today. And this could be all doom and gloom, but what's starting to happen is the luxury items that people have traditionally spent money on are all going on sale. So they have they have overstocked a lot of places in luxury items, except for cars, depending on which type of car you're looking at. But luxury items like handbags, makeup, in a lot of instances, it first came about back in the 90s with the lipstick kind of index, which gives you an idea that when things go downhill, people still spend money on shopping and all of the other things, essentials, but luxury items like lipstick, handbags, other things still get bought by a certain percentage of the population. And they even go on the rise by a certain percent of the population, because people want to treat themselves, feel like they deserve it. They're going a little bit hard. Now, the lag is where this overstocked freak out effect happens when everybody thinks we're going into recession. So luxury goods go on sale. And at the moment, if you have a high-end product, it's very likely that it's more likely that you're actually going to be able to shift that high-end product before, say, winter, end of financial year. So yeah, just a thought. If you have a high-end part of your business, whether it's a coaching package, whether it's a creation, an artwork, a sculpture, whether it is a long-term program that you do with people, if you have the opportunity to value add or put a sale price on it, it's more likely to shift at the moment. All right. Lunar energies coming up and how they might affect you and your business. March's themes, because we are just this evening going into the full moon in Virgo, is all about cleaning up. How can you prune? How can you sweep up, notice all the places and spaces where you might be leaking energy, and how can you clean that up? Another energy for this month is realizing that you've actually begun. Many of us have been trying really hard, like we're pushing poo uphill in January and February, and it might feel like, I've been doing all the things behind the scenes, I just don't understand why it's not working. I put it out there and not everybody's back on board. Well, they are back on board now. It is March and things have shifted, and all of a sudden we are in alignment and things are going forward. And progress is happening. And it's more about the progress than the perfection of you having had it all set up to begin with. Lastly, we've got dreams and intuition in March are going to be ramped up, especially in the Pisces to Aries mode. So a lot of the places and spaces that you might be thinking and envisioning something different for your future, as well as those gut feelings, start to notice them, because they are here for a reason and they will take you into an easier space of flow rather than pushing through uphill or swimming upstream. April, we have the full moon in Libra, and it has a sense of taking balanced action. April isn't full pelt forward. It is just being consistent. And the thing about that is things like AI can help you just be consistent. If you put, for instance, a prompt in AI, whether you are in the health and wellbeing space, let's say you look after people who have considerations with diabetes, you might say into ChatGPT, if you choose to use an AI tool like it, you might say things like, what are 10 essential ideas or essential health ideas for people who have pre-diabetes? Or what are the top 5 uses of a glucometer? The same thing can go for if you are an artist. What are the 5 most prevalent alcohol-based oil paints, or something like that? You can put these prompts in that are very specific and get hints, tips, starting points to write your next blog, to write your next series of social media posts. And it can give you that confidence to be consistent. Yes, it is a bit hit and miss. There are some things that you're just going to go, I don't think so. That's not right. I'm not going to put that in. And that's the beauty of it. You being the driver of the intelligence is that you get to choose what's actually on there. Okay, lastly, there's the leadership aspect. Aries starts to kick in April, and it is, instead of looking left, looking right, looking into all the different lanes of the people who are doing things next to you, doing things similar, this is you taking consistent, confident steps in your lane. So if you are finding yourself distracted in April, and April here in Australia especially is also the time of Easter and school holidays and all these other things, and we tend to get off track, whether it's with our health or our wealth. It's time to just stay in your own lane and take balanced, consistent action moving forward. Alrighty, May. The energies around May to move you into flow are around stability, self-worth, and money. As our Taurus season kind of kicks off in May, we start to notice in the new moon type of time, we start to notice money and luxury items a lot more. Now, just before, I was telling you all about these entrepreneurial world themes and that luxury lag that happens when we're going into a recession, where people still feel like they deserve something, or still feel like that they have a self-worth externally that they can attribute. And this is the thing about May in particular. If you're going to launch something, especially a 6-week program before the end of financial year, that kind of thing, May is a great time to do it. because you're starting to consider, your clients are starting to consider where their worth lies and where they're going to spend their money before the end of financial year, here in the Southern Hemisphere anyway. The other thing about May's energies is around stability, and we're starting to go from the old to the new. We're moving from Taurus, which is straight ahead, into the Gemini kind of zone, which is the new thoughts, new ways of doing things. And so what we're starting to move into at the end of autumn and into winter, which I discussed at the beginning of the session, is all about you're going into this review and renew cycle and planting new ideas. And so we're moving out from the old stuff into the new way of thinking. All right. So if you want to connect further, I have the unrestricted book that we talked about at the beginning. You'll be getting this on replay, or if you are watching it on replay, congratulations getting to the end. I hope something in here has been useful to you, but we actually deep dive into this in a much deeper container. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew about it if this was floating your boat for the rest of the year. So instead of just catching up for an hour like you have on what's coming up in the next seasons, we actually catch up for a retreat, 2.5 days together every quarter. And you can join from wherever you happen to be in the world. We've had people in yurts and 5-star resorts and all sorts of places, and diving deep into what the next part of the entrepreneurial cycle means for them, and what it means for you to shift and have accountability in group coaching calls over the months that come after that into the next 3-day retreat. Then we also have seasonal trainings and expert interviews, and we have people who are specific to what's coming up in that cycle so that you're staying abreast and ahead of all those trends. And you also get a huge $250 worth of gift box every single time you do a retreat to make sure that you have everything that you need, especially for the retreat. If you join up before April 4th, so the end of the next moon cycle, then you actually get an entire retreat free. So that's 5 retreats in a year with an extra quarter rather than just the 4. So you can find that on my website, tammyguest.com, and you can follow all the bits and pieces there. It's been awesome to talk to you guys tonight. Happy full moon to everybody. If you have learnt something from this, please share it. Please share it on socials. Please make sure that you share it with people that you need to know about it, that came to mind when you thought, oh, wow, that person needs to know about that. And apply it. One of my biggest things about being in this space is taking the action that you need. It's really nice to have ideas that just come to you, or you watch a YouTube video and you do nothing about it, but there's only so many times that you can do nothing about it and nothing changes. So my invitation to you is take at least one thing from today and take action on it, and you'll never know where you'll be in the full year's cycle ahead. And it has been awesome to hang here today. Thank you so very much. And I will catch you on the next place or space I see you in real life or online. Thanks again. See ya.